Hello Internet. For today's quick tips lesson, I'm going to go through 3 different commands in Rhino that are meant to serve as a sort of advanced way of manipulating shapes and curves to do some of the designs that I've done. And so if you look here in our main window, the first command I'm going to use is actually connected to the rotate command, which we see over here. And if we were to quickly draw just a random shape and we left click rotate, we set our rotation plane. We can spin whatever shape around 360 degrees, however we want. If you look over here on the toolbar and hover over it, the little icon underneath shows an alternate command that you can use with right click, and this command is called rotate 3D. So to illustrate what this does, if we right click it and then we click anywhere to create our plane of rotation, we can flip the shape 3-dimensionally in order to spin it around and achieve something that we wouldn't be able to get just by spinning it around this way. This could be sort of likened to the mirror command, which we've looked at before, in which we mirror something across a plane to get the exact reflection of it. Rotate 3D will allow you to do that without having to do an extra step and, delete a duplicate object. So again, if we were to just right click the rotate command, and how it sets up the axis depends on the points you click. If I were to go top to bottom and set this right here as my mirror plane, this part up here is the actual rotating point. So when I click here, it's letting me flip it across the y-axis. If I were to go this way, I would be flipping it across the x-axis up and down. This command is pretty useful when you want to take a shape or a set of shapes and you want to flip their orientation around within a part of the design without having to bother with doing a mirror image. It can save you some time, and it's a little bit tricky until you figure out that the mirror planes work up and down and side to side, but it should be pretty useful as far as saving a couple steps. The second command I want to take a look at actually is related to the array command. If you remember a couple lessons ago, we looked at this command up here, polar array, which is where you take a single shape and you can use the command to copy it around a point up to 360 degrees. So if you wanted to, say, take a circle, just to recap real quick, set the point here. Let's say we wanted to make 5 of them right around the 0, 0 point on the axes here. It does that. Another command under the array menu is actually up here on this toolbar, array along curve. And this toolbar is what they call this array commands. It's the same as over here on the transformation toolbar, but it doesn't include this curve one. So what I did was I just went right click, go into my toolbar settings, and I clicked this box to get this mini array toolbar, and I just stuck it up here. So this command, array along curve, is actually pretty useful when we want to, let's say, set a path and we want to take a set of shapes and copy it, let's say, all the way along this curve. You could do that manually using the copy command and then rotate each piece into place. Depending on how complex the shapes are, what you could do is use this array along curve command. So what you do is, if you have nothing selected, click the command. It'll ask you to select the objects that you want to copy. So for the example, we'll take these 2 curves here, hit enter, you select the path curve, And what I'll usually do is create a guidelining curve, or if I'm putting things around like a circle or a section, I'll use that as the path curve. In this example, we select a single line. Let's say we want to do 6 of these spikes copied and rotated along the single path curve. So what it does here is it takes the single curve and it puts it a similar distance apart, and it slowly rotates them along the path curve. And you see here, it gave us 1 extra because it was more space than the actual path curve itself. But this particular command can be pretty useful when it comes to creating ridges, spines. I've used it for a lot of the Monster Hunter designs to really quickly add spikes along, let's say, a neck or a tail, and it saves the trouble of having to go into each individual one and, rotating it in place or copying it all the way down. It's sort of situational, but I found that it's a good command to at least be familiar with and be able to use when necessary. So the third command that I want to look at in this quick tips lesson is one that is part of, again, the transformation toolbar. There are a lot of useful tools up here as part of this menu, and that's this one right here, bend. So this command allows you to take curves or shapes and select a point and literally just bend them like you were twisting them over like a wire or something like that. And I've used this command a lot. And so to illustrate, I want to use an example of probably one of the most common instances where I've used this command, and that is over here with chains. So I've used this similar technique on a bunch of different designs, especially the Brave Frontier ones. So to illustrate, if I were to take my set of curves that constitutes the chain shape, and I go up here to bend, what it asks you to do is to set a spine. So this is actually the point at which the software is going to take the shape and bend it. So what I do is, if I'm going to bend a straight, sometimes symmetrical object like this, I'll go right down the middle lengthwise. So if I start, we'll keep it snapped to the axes here, and if we go all the way to the end, it's going to bend the whole thing using those 2 points. And as you can see, it's only bending it slightly because it's using that first point, and it's taking the entire section and bending it all the way down. Now, this doesn't seem really useful unless you want to get a slight bend or have a chain just sticking out at an angle like this. Let's say we wanted to actually get this to have some curvature to it. So if we were to select all of our curves again, go up to the bend command right here, use the center line, but only go, let's say, a little more than half. It'll allow us to bend it more. You can see now the bend starts kind of towards the middle. If we wanted to get even more curvature, if we try it again, select everything, right click to repeat the same command, and let's say we don't snap it to the middle, we just go here to the end. It's going to bend it from that point, but now look, you get a lot more curvature towards the later sections of the chain itself. So what I'll typically do if I want to have a winding chain with a lot of curve to it, I'll start in one spot like that. I'll repeat the command again from the next section like that, and the next section like that, and that will give me the curvature that I want. We can even go the opposite direction here, go this way. You have to be a little bit careful about doing this with large joined curves, because sometimes they'll start bending opposite ends. Sometimes it's easier to keep the curves separated instead of joining them like this. So if I were to split them apart with explode, and let's say I wanted to just mess with this section here, Now when I use the bend command, it's only going to bend that section and it won't mess with anything else in the lower part. So as you can see here, we've taken our straight shape, we've bent it into a sort of S-type shape. If I were to create the surface from it, render it real quick, you can see pretty useful for creating curved shapes. The bend command does stretch things out, so if that's a desired effect or not will sort of depend on how you use the command, but I found it pretty useful for taking sections and getting them into the right shape. Usually I'll start by creating the straight shape symmetrically across one of the axes, and then I'll bend it into the actual final shape I want, which is a lot of times easier than trying to build out the shape in real time, but you can do that with the other commands if you want. And so those are the 3 commands that I wanted to look at for this quick tips lesson. What I'll do is I will attach some footage at the end with me going through kind of the commands in practice in high speed, just to give some more examples. This was another attempt to do live commentary. It's why you can hear me clicking away at the software as I'm actually narrating here. I recently ordered a silent mouse, so once I get that, I'm gonna attempt to be able to do live commentary for these tutorials in the software, and hopefully my mic won't pick up the audible clicking in the background. Okay, that about does it for this one. So again, if you have any questions, leave me a comment, and I will see you guys next time.